Joining us now, two Democratic members of Congress who represent the big three investigative committees in the House of Representatives. Congressman Raja Krishnamoorthi of Illinois is a member of the House Oversight Committee and the House Intelligence Committee. And Congressman Jamie Raskin of Maryland is a member of the House Oversight Committee and the House Judiciary Committee. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. I have to assume you are feeling increasing pressure about the issue of impeachment. Congressman Raskin, you've just heard the former Attorney General. You just possibly heard in our first segment tonight, Walter Dellinger, former Justice Department official himself, his op-ed piece today in the Washington Post saying the Judiciary Committee already has more than enough for impeachment.
Yeah, it's like water behind a dam. The pressure is just building every day for impeachment. And, you know, we just got more evidence today leaked out from the redacted portions of the report, which confirm everybody's sense that there was presidential obstruction of justice. We knew of 10 or 11 episodes of it that were invoked in the unredacted portions by Special Counsel Mueller. Now we know about more evidence of it coming from Michael Flynn, and it just seems overwhelming. You know, I think there were more than 800 federal prosecutors, that is, former colleagues of the Attorney General, who came out and said when they read the redacted version of the report, they are convinced that this would be brought as an obstruction of justice prosecution and indictment in federal court against anybody other than the president. And the special counsel says, out of deference to the rule that the DOJ doesn't indict the president, we'll kick it over to the House of Representatives. So what is an impeachment? An impeachment is an indictment by the House of Representatives that goes over to the Senate, and then there's a trial over there. So I think the pressure is building. You know, we understand that it's not an up or down vote. A lot of people are saying, are you for impeachment or against impeachment? That's not what it's about. The question is, are you for an impeachment inquiry? Do you think there's enough evidence to suggest that there were high crimes and misdemeanors against the United States? And there were 3 articles in the Nixon articles of impeachment. Okay, so one of them was, the first was obstruction of justice. The second was abuse of power. And the third was contempt of Congress. Sound familiar?
Congressman Krishnamoorthi, we see in these new unredacted elements of the court filings today the potential for what's actually in the Mueller report in what is still redacted. We see references to Rick Gates, Donald Trump in a car at LaGuardia Airport. They are talking about WikiLeaks. We know that from the beginning of the paragraph and from the little hints at the end of the paragraph, but we don't know what's in the middle. And that's what your chairman of the Intelligence Committee, Congressman Schiff, is trying to obtain. That speaks directly to the interests of the Intelligence Committee.
Absolutely. In a bipartisan request with Chairman Schiff and Ranking Member Devin Nunes, they asked for the counterintelligence findings that we're statutorily obligated to receive from the Special Counsel's Office and the Department of Justice. We haven't seen them yet.
I just want to stop you there for a second, Congressman, to underline this for the audience. Your committee, the Intelligence Committee, operates under different rules from the rest of the committee, and there are actually provisions made specifically for your committee to receive some of the material that is specifically redacted in the Mueller report currently.
Correct. Just for your viewers' background, there was actually members of the FBI who were embedded in the Special Counsel's Office who were collecting counterintelligence information, and that was collected in presumably some kind of repository, and we are obligated to receive that by statute. And so that's what we're in a bipartisan way trying to attempt to receive right now. And the reason is very plain. Even if the 140-plus contacts between Trump and Russian officials did not possibly amount to criminal conspiracy, they may have involved incredibly embarrassing information that the Russians could use to manipulate current Trump officials to endanger national security. Just one other observation, you mentioned that perhaps someone connected to Congress may have obstructed the probe. or influence the probe. I can tell you tonight, it wasn't me. I don't think it was Jamie either.
Yeah, and that was, for me, one of the stunning things that we learned today by unredacting some of these lines in the filing is that their special counsel is saying that people close to the president, people close to the administration, and people close to Congress, including possibly members of Congress. Congressman Raskin, what was your reaction to that?
Well, first of all, I appreciate being absolved of that particular offense by my colleague. No, it's alarming, but to me it's not surprising because, in fact, we know that there are key members of the Republican caucus who've been acting in very close coordination with the White House from the beginning. The whole phony deep state conspiracy theory where they decided to go after Peter Strzok and Lisa Page is something that was very closely coordinated between the White House and the Republicans in Congress. They're trying to revive it now. They say, let's get back to the real business of Congress, which is going after Peter Strzok and Lisa Page. You know, avoid all of the corruption, avoid all of the obstruction, avoid the emoluments clause. Let's talk about the deep state conspiracy theory. And they also are the ones who've been advancing this extreme absolutist interpretation of the Constitution, which is the unitary executive theory. The president can do whatever he wants with respect to the executive branch. He can fire people. He can end criminal investigations. I mean, ultimately, that's where their argument is going, that even if all of this is true, it could not be obstruction of justice. That's why Attorney General Barr was hired, because he wrote this 18-page single-space memo, which said the president literally cannot be found guilty of obstructing justice because he sits atop the law enforcement machinery like a king. And now our colleagues in Congress, unfortunately, are going along with that on the Republican side. So they are forcing a very dramatic constitutional confrontation about the powers of Congress, the Article I branch, the lawmaking branch, which has the political sovereignty of the people, versus the power of the president. And we say he's got one core job, which is to take care that the laws are faithfully executed, not flouted, not circumvented, and not violated. And if you trample the rule of law, we've got the power to impeach you. You don't have the power to impeach us.
Carson Krishnamurthy, quickly before we go, is your Intelligence Committee going to get testimony from Michael Flynn to find out who were those people close to Congress or in Congress who tried to influence him?
Good question. I don't know that our committee has actually taken up this matter yet. Obviously, Chairman Schiff is probably reviewing his options right now, and will then take appropriate measures. But I think this all the more supports the conclusion that a lot of us have had for several days, if not weeks at this point, which is we need the full unredacted report, we need all the underlying documents, and we need Mr. Mueller to testify on Capitol Hill. No filters, no more filters. We need to hear directly from Mr. Mueller.
Congressman Roger.